Welcome to the Early Years Teacher Team presentation on oral language and phonological awareness. This presentation is one in a series of 4 exploring emerging literacy in Scottish Borders. Today we will be looking at the steps along the pathway of the child's journey as they develop their skills in listening and talking. We will discuss skills development and our role as practitioners and teachers in providing the experiences, spaces, and interactions which will support them on this journey. You can see we have included the latest development links to the Scottish Borders Council Breakthrough Curriculum developments for further reference. Let's look first at oral language. Children's oracy skills underpin their ability to communicate, to comprehend, and later on to create text. The house visual has been developed by NHS Borders speech and language therapists to show the wide range of skills needed for the development of spoken oral language. Like a house, each block needs a strong foundation and links in between to ensure cohesion and stability. All of the skills in this language house, as you can see, are underpinned by the very strong foundation that is our interactions. You will see as we work through this session that it is key. Children develop language through consistent, high-quality child and adult interactions. As you can see, one of the primary building blocks of spoken oral language and phonological awareness is listening and attending. It is really important here that phonological awareness is not only about phonics as a matching letter sounds to symbols. It is about so much more than this, and is inclusive of all the foundational skills a child needs before moving on to exploring phonics. We can encourage the development of spoken language as we hone and refine our professional interactions. One of the ways we can do this is by using the keys to communication approaches. These are developed by NHS Borders speech and language therapists. You will find the keys tie in with the Early Years Teacher Team training found in the Early Years Portal training sessions. These are around quality interactions, sustained shared thinking, and the longer versions of the emerging literacy packages. The keys to communication can be used at each stage of language and communication development. Reference to this can be found on the Early Years Portal Keys to Communication page. For examples of how this works in practice, please go to the longer Emerging Literacy training. Alongside the Scottish Borders Council literacy trackers, the Highland Literacy website can be used to support and develop our understanding of the progression of skills in the areas of emerging literacy. Here is one example within oral language and phonological awareness. This document to the left explores and explains the different stages of listening and attending in the tracker. You can find further information by clicking on the blue hyperlink, which will take you to the Highland Literacy website, or by going to the page specified in the progression and guidance document. Language is complex, and each skill has stages that need to be explored and explicitly shared in. This is not about rushing through skills, it is about embedding them through a variety of rich experiences and opportunities. Words we use to describe language and literacy can be tricky. Please stop the presentation and read through this slide and take some notes. Here's an example of how words within language might be a bit tricky too. Concepts are words used to describe abstract ideas, for example, positions, in, on, under, and size, shorter and taller. Concepts help children to become more effective communicators and comprehend the language used in day-to-day communication and across the curriculum. Like all language, children develop their understanding of concepts through everyday and planned experiences in which the language is used and modelled. When planning, it's helpful to consider the concepts that children need in order to access the learning. Understanding of these concepts should not be presumed. When playing and talking together, we may, for example, comment on objects which are round, using gesture where possible. This exposure may be enough for some children to understand and begin to use the concept. If children require explicit exposure to understanding the concept, we should ensure that our spaces and experiences offer a variety of opportunities to explore and revisit. Please ensure that your continuous provision has objects, pictures and references for a variety of language opportunities to develop vocabulary. It's important to be careful with opposites. When learning new concepts, it's helpful for them to be introduced one at a time, structuring the teaching of opposites in a progressive way. Our language around opposites should be gradual. One that we are naturally very engaged in is using the word happy or not happy. You can ask a child, "Are you happy?" and then comment, "Oh, you seem not happy. You look sad." This approach really helps secure a strong understanding of the concepts. In order to store new words effectively, children need to gain knowledge in 3 areas. Semantics. What does the word mean? Phonological awareness. How does it sound? Kinesthetic or visualization. And they need to interact with the object, visual, or gesture that represents the word. It's not enough for a child to hear or read a word in isolation. They need to interact with and experience the words to learn language. In addition to learning about the 3 key areas of every word, a child needs to hear new words approximately 50 meaningful times before they will use the word in their spoken vocabulary in a purposeful way. The first area is word knowledge, semantics. Take a few minutes to look at the questions relating to semantics. All of these questions relate to all the information a child needs to learn about a word to store it effectively. Rather than use these as questions for the child though, these are areas for us to model, to narrate and comment on, and demonstrate and explore as we interact with the child. Explain what the object is, what it's used for, where you might find it. Discuss what group of things it might belong to. Ensure this is interactive and not using the closed type of questions. The second area is phonological awareness or sound awareness. Phonological awareness is a broad term referring to the ability to focus on the sounds of speech, on the intonation or rhythm, on the fact that certain words rhyme, and on the separate sounds. When children play with a language by repeating syllables, they are demonstrating an awareness of the phonological element of rhyme. Phonemic awareness and phonics will come up later in the presentation. Phonological awareness skills start to emerge before a child encounters print, and the skills continue to develop well into primary school. These skills typically develop in this predictable sequence. However, the stages overlap and children can start learning later skills before they have refined the earlier ones. It is really important not to rush these skills. The third essential area of building vocabulary is the ability to interact with a word, kinesthetic or visual information. As we have previously highlighted, children need to experience words in everyday and planned opportunities that are purposeful for them, and they need to do this frequently. Intentional promotion of Story of the Week is important for building new vocabulary and phonological awareness with children. Remember, children must still have choice as we engage with them, and they engage in our story corners, book nooks, cosy areas, and those provocations indoors and out for story sharing in a more responsive way too. When considering a story of the week, we must organise so that the experience reflects the needs of the children and is used to intentionally promote both concepts of print skills as well as language and vocabulary. we must ask ourselves the key questions on the slide. Ensure you have a range of diverse, good quality books arranged and displayed in an accessible way for all children. When choosing a story of the week, consider the key vocabulary being introduced, the opportunities for intentional promotion as well. Equally, rhyme is a key skill that we should support within our experiences. Rhyme opportunities and experiences are times when we can develop and strengthen our attachments and bonds with children too. We can model rich communication and language in these moments. Rhythm, rhyme and singing develop an awareness of beat and forms a love for the musicality of language, the flow and the pattern. It allows children to explore the sound patterns of words too. This will naturally feed into reading. Young children's awareness of rhyme is a powerful predictor of later success in reading, and so much more. How we are sharing our knowledge around rhythm and rhyme with families is something that should be equally can be considered in your setting. Previously, it may have been common practice for a story or rhyme time to be at the end of the day gather time, maybe as an organisational tool. Rhyme time or story time should be valued and approached in a considered way. We should ensure that the experience of rhyme is unrushed so that we can maximise the learning experience to support language and vocabulary development. We need time to cover a variety of skills for learning, to repeat, to relate to other knowledge, to consider what sounds we hear, to substitute new or unusual words, and to provide expression to engage interest and develop understanding. For more details on Rhyme of the Week or on stories and rhymes and songs, you can use the links on the screen. Spaces rich in authentic real-life resources and loose parts are not a new idea. Various influential theorists and pedagogies such as Froebel, Reggio Emilia and Montessori have all explored and maximised the benefit of authentic, real-life and loose parts resources over the years. There are many ways why we should have real-life authentic resources in our setting. It is our role in providing multi-sensory experiences that create rich language opportunities. You can see from this slide that you can track children's skill development using the Scottish Borders Council Emerging Literacy Tracker. If you download this onto your iPad, you can click on the blue links for further guidance. As we move through the stages of development with the children, we need to help them to understand that sentences break down into words, words break down into syllables, and syllables break down into individual speech sounds or phonemes. Take a moment to read this slide for your understanding. Knowledge of word boundaries is a skill which is essential as children move into capturing their words on paper to support the identification of the boundaries of each word or placing a finger space when writing. If children are finding this difficult, perhaps go back and check. Can the children hear and identify where one word finishes and another starts, as a sentence or phrase is spoken? The images here show some ideas which may support this skill in your setting. Moving counters or loose parts as we say each word, or moving ourselves, hands in the air then down, clapping, tapping or stamping as we say each word. Remember, we don't need to see the words as the children start this skill. It is about hearing where one word stops and another one starts. Think in your setting how this may best be done. It can be incorporated in a meaningful way into rhyme or story of the week time or into instructional language as children get ready for lunch or join or leave group discussions. The same should be considered when exploring this skill of words breaking into syllables. Breaking words into syllables, or as has been suggested in the phonological awareness continuum, syllable blending and syllable detection. Think about how this may be done in your setting. Phonics refers to the relationship between individual sounds, or phonemes, and the letters that represent them are called graphemes. A phoneme is often represented by a single letter. When we see 2 or 3 letters together, which make a single sound, such as S and H for sh in the word shut, or IGH, the sound I, as in the word light, these are referred to as digraphs and trigraphs. Phonics need to be explicitly taught through developmentally appropriate experiences. How this looks in ELC and P1 will often be different. One thing that is important to highlight in relation to supporting this skill is the visual to the right of your slide, the schwa. It's a very important sound and one that has no alphabetic representation but rather its own symbol as seen here. This is not for us to teach the children, but we do need to understand it so that we ensure the sounds we teach are pure sounds without the schwa, which can often be added accidentally. The schwa is the sound you often hear in words as they are spoken in everyday language, as shown here. For example, in the sentence, "Would you like a cup of tea?" The refers to the word of in this example. Or, when we sound out in individual letters for children, we might say, "Sam, your name starts with the letter S, or the S sound." When we should say, "Sam, your name begins with the S sound." I hope you can hear the difference. Aim to always use the pure sounds with children to ensure that when they're ready to blend sounds for reading, that they are not adding this extra unnecessary schwa ending. Families should be supported to try and learn this too. There is a video link on the slide that tells the phonic sounds as they should be pronounced, and you can take a screenshot to download and watch this in your own time. Thank you for using this presentation. Please use these links for information and further training to develop your knowledge around literacy.